So that whole section, you're not at there.
Oh, I feel. Hello, everyone. Welcome. How's everyone doing? Good. Awesome. Amazing. Who's here from Chicago? Who's local? Who's not from Chicago? A few people. You've traveled miles and miles just to come see us, right? Yeah, perfect. So have I. Cool. So yeah, I'm from the UK. We're actually doing a fun US road show. Really, this is our second stop. We've been to Austin. Chicago's way cooler. We're going to, where are we going? We're going to. I saw an amazing Cubbies game earlier today. Anyone at the Cubbies game earlier? No one? Oh, it was an awesome game. Off to Boston tomorrow, and then New York the day after. So we're going to have lots of good fun going through the East Coast. Some housekeeping, first of all. If you require Wi-Fi, there's a couple of boards at the back there. It provides you with instructions of how to get online. Toilets, if you go, or restrooms rather, if you go out or through any of these double doors, take a left, carry on going that way, and it's on the right, corridor down the right. There's the restrooms. Fire alarm, there is no fire alarm scheduled. If you do hear a fire alarm, it's real. Go back out towards the lobby. The stairs are right next to the lifts, so it's the way you came in and down the stairs from there. Lift does mean elevator, correct. Or rather, elevator means lift. It's very subtle, but it's an important difference. Oh, so the AI native community is a community that we at Tessel, who's the company I'll talk a little bit about in just a sec, we created a year ago, and there's a couple of pieces to it. Anyone listen to the AI native dev podcast? Oh, it breaks my heart. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah, you do. Cool. So yeah, myself and Gaipo are hosts of the AI native dev podcast, where we interview a whole bunch of amazing leads in the AI native dev space. To share what they're doing. We have people like the CEO of Datadog and a whole bunch of other people on there. We also have the AI Native Dev site, ainativedev.io, where we have a bunch of articles, a landscape of tools, all AI Native Dev tools, categorized, and events like this. So you're more than welcome to go to that site and check out what other events we're doing as well. One of those events is AI Native DevCon, which is a conference that we're going to be running in November 18th and 19th. And if you use the code, in fact, everyone should take a photo of this QR code in the corner. If you use the code TESSEL Chicago, you not only get 50% off the tickets, but you also enter a draw to win one of 4 flights that could go anywhere in the world. No, it goes to New York because that's where the conference is. Entries close on Friday, October 2nd, where we'll do the draw and we'll give those out. We have a bunch of amazing speakers there. Neil Ford from ThoughtWorks, for example, Josh Long, incredible, the Spring Dev advocate. We have James Ward from AWS and a whole bunch of other folks there as well. So you'll see this again, I'll put it up at the end, but that's AI Native DevCon, which is in November. So tonight's agenda, we're here at just past 6:30. We've got 3 talks coming up, and I'll also give a little bit of a quick talk about what we do at Tessel and some demonstration of some cool spec-driven work there. But we have Macy kicking off with spec-driven development, why your prompt chaos won't scale. Who's used any kind of vibe coding style AI dev tool? If you haven't, I don't know what you're doing in this room, but that's fine. Cool. Everyone's probably hit some ceiling where actually after time and time again of begging your AI dev tool to try and build you something, it just says, oh, you're absolutely right. Or, oh yeah, I see what's wrong here. And in 5 minutes, you end up in that same place and you do it again and again and again, and you can't resolve. There's a bunch of problems like that whereby actually maybe specs are the answer. And so Macy's going to share spec-driven development, talking about natural language and how we can use that going forward. We then have a couple of other speakers. We have David, who's going to be talking about Copilot and how we can use AI as your new pair programmer. And then Mary, who actually runs the AI Collective, who's a member of the AI Collective. Hey, okay. not as many as I thought. Actually, we'll have a session on the AI Collective with Mary. But if you're not a member of the AI Collective, it's like one of the premier communities on AI in Chicago and in the US. So absolutely join that, and Mary will come up and chat about that in just a second. But talking about AI native, event-driven, multi-agent paradigm, Mary's an amazing speaker and a good friend, so that's going to be a great session. There'll be some more time for networking, eating some weird pizza that's very thick out there. I'm not sure what it's about, but apparently it's a thing. Then a big thank you to our sponsors. So Microsoft, where's David? He's just left. Microsoft, big thank you to Microsoft for sharing this with this wonderful space. Thank you, David. Just thank you. A massive thank you to the AI Collective as well, and Mary's just going to give us a little chat about that as well. But thank you to the AI Collective, and a big thank you to Tassel, who I work for, Macy works for, and also Sam as well, for the food and also this wonderful tour that we're doing. So I'd love to invite Mary up just to chat a little bit about what the AI Collective is, and also, you know, the fact that you absolutely should join, and a little bit more about the organisers and things. So
okay,
actually, this is for the live
Oh,
stream.
for the live stream. Okay. I can use this. Okay. Or I can just hold it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay. So thank you everybody. If you're an AI Collective, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And as such, I'm one of the Chicago organizers, and also Jonathan doesn't look like he's able to come. He's the head of the Chicago chapter. So, but first of all, just wanted to tell you, if you are watching, or if you want to tell your friends they're remote, we are on YouTube. And it's being live streamed. So if you go to AI Collective, the live stream page, you'll find us there. But this is the direct link to that too. So if you want to tell your friends, or if people are already watching, that means you already have the link. But anyway, so this is available. And also thank you to Che Hu for helping us with the AV too. So thank you so much. Yeah, he's always there to help us. Thank you. Okay, and then the next thing is just wanting to a quick introduction too of our Chicago chapter. This is a leadership team. As I mentioned, Jonathan Johnson Swaggle is the head of the Chicago chapter. Then we have Brennan, Eric, Martina, and myself, and Roma. And then we also have new members just joined into our core team. Crystal Rogers is there. She's also leader of the Tech Walk Chicago. Yeah, right? Okay, I'm sorry, I got it all confused. Yeah, okay, well, thank you. But okay, but you're also a leader of another community. And then also Nicholas Rufino, you're there. Okay, thank you for helping us. And then of course Yu Shen, thank you, and they just joined us too. So thank you for 3 new members. And then we also have Jenny Hamilton and Quentin Rowe. They are both volunteers too, and help us on and off. So if you're interested, you're always welcome. And then come to our website too. We are on www.aicollective.com, and the /events is where you can find our events. We have also virtual events, and we're growing really rapidly now. I'm actually leading the regional, I'm the regional director for the East to US and Canadian East, so we're expanding a lot. If you go there, if you want to join us, you can always go to the chapters. The top there, you can find us and you know, sign into. They're very simple forms you can quickly fill up to. So if you're interested in us, and then again, I just want to thank again all our event volunteers, anybody who stepped in and helped us too, and then again with Che helping with the live streaming, and venue host with David, and we already thank him, and anybody who stepped up to help. So thank you. I think then, oops, sorry. I think that's all. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, I'll give it back to you. Okay.
Awesome. Just pop this back on. Okay, so we're going to do a very brief intro into what Tessel is, and talk a little bit about what problem Tessel was trying to solve. Who's heard of Tessel before, out of interest? Okay, good number, including Macy, who works there, which is awesome. I'm worried that Sam, you didn't put your hand up, but oh, you did. Okay, cool. Right, I'm gonna give you a brief intro into what Tessel does. So Tessel's a new startup, 18 months old or so, and what we kind of puzzled around our heads 18 months ago is thinking about how we use AI in our software development today. And we love the fact that there is, a bunch of tools, a bunch of, the co-pilots of the world, the agents of the world, the ways in which it can help us develop software. What we're trying to think of is how can we rethink software development from the start if AI was just a first-class citizen? How do we natively use AI in our development workflow? Or rather, how do we, from scratch, build that workflow around AI? So we thought, okay, we want to build production quality software using specifications. We want to use specifications because we want to break through sometimes the ceiling that agents sometimes put there. That provide us with hallucinations. They sometimes, if you think about various library versions, how does it pick the right library version to pull information from, to code against? There are a number of problems, and how can we use specifications to really define that and allow agents to be supercharged, to get the most out of them? So we thought about spec-driven development and worked on a tool and a paradigm to see how we can supercharge agents using spec-driven development. So I'm going to give you a quick demo of this now. And there's two things that I wanted to demo for you. The first one is going to be something called the spec registry. The spec registry is something which is in open beta now, so you're all available to go and play with this. I'll share the links in just a second. But I'm going to access the spec registry using Tessel and using Claude Code. Who's a Claude Code user here? A good number. What else? Codex? Gemini CLI? Yeah, Cursor? Anything else that major that I didn't really say that people are using? Second? Gwen? Qwen? Any others? Windsurf, yeah? Awesome. I'm just going to be using Claude Code because it's super cool and I love Claude Code. So what I'm going to do first of all, I've downloaded Tessel, the Tessel CLI already. I'm going to run just Tessel init. What Tessel init is going to do is going to add a number of files onto my local file system and also connect to an AI agent. So in this case, there are a number of these that I could connect to, including Copilot, Goose, OpenCode, Windsurf. I'm going to connect to Claude Code. I'm going to auto-configure the Tessel MCP within Claude Code. That means from now, Claude Code, I can then make, create commands, create requests, and Claude Code will invoke my Tessel MCP. So now if I type Claude, it's going to say, do you want to use Tessel? I'll say, yes, I do. And for those of you who haven't seen this updated Claude Code, this is using Sonnet 4.5, and this is Claude Code version 2. So this was only dropped yesterday. So what am I going to do? Well, what I want to do is if I was to maybe create a simple application, let's say create a simple CLI app or Hello World application. Now, what I'm going to say is I'm going to say use Tessel usage specs. Now, what Tessel usage specs are is a set of specifications that are stored in the Tessel spec registry. And these specifications describe how I or an agent should use various open source libraries. So in this case, it might use something like the Node Commander library. How do I use that? Well, the agent will have some training data that describe that. But if I'm using a specific version, maybe I need to use it in a specific way. If I am using some latest features that aren't in the training data, I need to understand how I can make use of those. So it's going to download, and I turn that. It's going to recognize what it needs to use. It's in terms of my my libraries. It's going to try and download those libraries, but it also is hopefully going to try and download the usage specs for that. In this case, it's going to ask me some bootstrap questions. I'm going to say, let's use Python, actually. Let's use Python. And actually, no, let's say use Python. Choose sensible defaults. In the real world here, I would more granularly go through, it would ask me a bunch of questions and I'd build up this application and the environment exactly as I would want. It's now going to go away, start building up various things like the testing environment, those types of things, download exactly what I need for this. Hopefully, I haven't tested it with Python actually, but hopefully it will use a library for this. Otherwise, I'll redo this slightly using Node. But yeah, it's bootstrapping the Python project now, so it's probably actually going to start doing some testing. PyTest, there we go. It's recognized that we've got Python 3, which is good. It's writing a requirements text.txt, which is great. Let's create that, absolutely. It's going to be using PyTest version 8 or above. And this is the plan file now. Now, the plan file is essentially what Tessel is asking here Claude to create. And this is just that, you know, we've probably all seen these in Claude Code and others. It's essentially like a number of steps that we want to absolutely create first. In this case, actually, it's asking me if I want to create a spec. In this case, let's say yes, let's absolutely create a specification. And hopefully, as we create the spec, it will then add my usage specs as well. So as part of creating this specification, you'll notice now in the specs folder, there's a hello.spec.md. And if I go across over to my CLI here, you'll see, actually, this isn't the one I want, is it? Why is this not closing? Try this again. Ah, good. Are you seeing this as well? This is now making this hard to do. There we go. Okay, this is my hello.spec.md file that's just been created. A few things in here. It's oh Jesus. Oh no, it looks okay there. Weird. On my screen, my cursor is about 3 inches below hello.spec.md right now, but that's fine. I'll look up here and do it here. Okay, so we have this hello.spec.md. We have a title, a small description. We also have this @generate, and what that means is this is going to generate a specific Python file for us, which is hello.py. We also then have a list of capabilities, and this can get more complex and longer as we wish. And this could actually also be very modular. So I might have one spec per module that we're going to be using. We also then have an API as to how other modules or how I should use this specification. Okay, the next thing to do is it's going to run Tessel build. So this Tessel build is actually going to turn the specification into code. So essentially, it's potentially if there were other libraries here that were being used, it would pull a bunch of usage specs down, and it would build based on their usage specs and also based on that spec as well. In this case, it's run the build. We have a hello.py. It's checking it now. It looks like it wants to run it. I'll run that, and there we go. There's the output hello world. And then we have that spec. We have the code. Should be nice and simple. If now I wanted to update this, there's a couple of ways I can update this. I might maybe say, let's update this directly into my capabilities here, or maybe change the API or do whatever I want. I can do that manually. I can do that with Claude, or I can go back and use Tessel. So I can say use Tessel to edit the spec. Let's add a capability. Let's add a capability to take a name as input, and please add test in the spec and build the tests. So what this is now going to do, it's going to perform the edit for me. I expect a new capability to exist. As soon as that capability exists, it's going to start adding the tests in. So I should have a couple of capabilities any second. It'll add, oh no, it's not, because it's going to ask me, can I edit? Yes, you can. That could have been a long wait. It's going to add that second capability in. It's going to add the tests. So there we have, with no argument, print hello world. there, and then also hello Alice. It always uses the name Alice for some reason. I have no idea why. And then we have a test for that. Now it's going to be building the code. It'll build the tests as well, and then we can run those tests. So this is TESL allowing agents to with a framework in which it can capably build using specifications. And the goal, of course, is these specifications can then be collaborated through a team and so forth to hopefully get us closer to that kind of production quality code with a full test suite, validation from our intent, which is our tests, from our specs, which Macy will talk more about, and be able to validate that our code is always meeting the intent in our specifications. Cool. Next up, we have Macy Baker, who's going to be talking about a number of things, but one of which is going to be about natural language and how we can make sure that our natural language is implemented into our specifications. So please welcome Macy. Okay, you're going to need. Do you want a?
That one.
Do you want a mic or do you want a?
Is this mic okay?
You'll need this for the room.
Oh.
Or you can have this lapel.
Let's see, Philip.
Yeah. One other thing. Sorry, Macy. One other thing that I forgot to do. If I quickly come back here. Dun, dun, dun. There we go.
It was a mic drop.
That was a mic drop moment. Yeah. So a couple of things. Registry, which I mentioned, is available right now. You can use it there, tesla.io/registry. We also have the TESL framework, which I demoed there. This is actually, the TESL framework is in a closed beta, but if you were to scan that QR code, you get direct access to the TESL framework. Plus, you get added to a drawer for this Watcher, which is possibly the creepiest AI tool ever. What this Watcher does is it sits there harmlessly watching everything you do. And you can code it to say, hey, when this happens, do this. When this happens, do that. And it does awesome AI image recognition, video recognition in terms of things that happen and makes decisions based on what it sees. So yeah, if you wanted to be in the draw for this, which we'll give away at the end of the evening, please scan that QR code and you'll get access to TESL as well as the draw for this. Awesome. And now, Macy, really over to you. We've got some other, no, not really over. We've got some other little giveaways here. That's the great questions. We'll throw them over to you. And now, Macy, yeah, it is yours now. Over
Okay,
to
great.
you.
Thank you.
Put it up to your phone back up.
Yeah.
Live. Oh, let me pull that up. You can scan the screen.
Am I meant to do something else? I'm plugged in. It just took a second. Amazing, thank you. Cool. So we spoke. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. So we spoke a little bit about spec-driven development. What exactly do I mean by prompt chaos in contrast to that? So a lot of you, I think, in the room are using AI agents to code. If you're not, you've probably seen them. And you know that even these tools, even in the big year of 2025, the primary interface is still chat. And you know what that looks like. You're giving a micro prompt, you're saying, I want something. Your agent is saying, yeah, cool, and it's giving you some code. Then you're like, thanks, but not like that. And it's like, okay, and then it gives you some more code. And you go on and on and on. And these are little micro prompts. And you're actually doing something really important in this kind of turn-taking conversation exercise. You're working out what it is that you actually need. Maybe you knew 100% up front, but probably not, right? You're kind of working it out as you go. You might even be working with or around agent limitations. Maybe it couldn't one-shot something that you really can't be asked to like shepherd it through. So you're like, okay, cool, we'll do it another way. But I think the point is that you're working out your intent. You are still the author, by the way, of all of the software that this guy produces. But all of your intent is captured in these little micro prompts. And that's really what I want to get across here, is that you're speaking two different languages. You're speaking the language of intent, and your agent is speaking the language of implementation, which is code. If you've been a software engineer, if you've written code in any capacity, you know that writing more code is not often the way to solve a problem. But to your agent, it is. To your agent, that's the primary way we solve problems. And importantly, this intent is totally ephemeral. These agent chats are totally ephemeral. Some agents literally put them in your temp folder. They're disposable. They're designed to be thrown away. And you end up with something like this at the end of it. A whole bunch of implementation, code, your source of truth. Somewhere hidden in there is your intent, what you actually meant to be load-bearing in this program. But code can't really tell you why it's there. It's not possible to read a function and know that it's there because this is a core part of the author's intent, or it's just there because I had only 2 libraries available and I had to kind of work with it, or I had to hack around something to make it work. Like, the functions that are there because I really need them to be there are not going to announce themselves. Which again is my point. If you don't document this stuff, it's going to be assumed. And that's kind of okay. Why is the hairdryer on the screen? I didn't mean to transition that so quickly. You're probably like, okay. That's okay because we have a lot, as humans, we have a lot of ways to assume what the creator's intent was for something. One of those ways is by using things. Here's a hairdryer. You may have used one of these before. I asked ChatGPT to make me a sleeker, more modern version of this hairdryer, and it gave me this. And I think it's nice. I like it. Sleek, modern, pretty. Unfortunately, it has some functional issues. That little rubber knob on the side, that's to keep it from slipping off the counter. In the country where I live, you can't plug things in the bathroom, so it matters a little less, but for you guys, it's important. That little sleek slider, cool until you have hair products or water on your hand, and then it just becomes a nightmare to use and eventually gets sticky and gross. Famously, LLMs don't have hair, so they don't know this. They cannot use hair dryers. The same is true in code. This is a simple validation function for a field in a form. First glance, you might not know exactly what that set timeout is for, but it becomes very obvious if you type in this form and you're getting shouted at that your email is wrong when you're 1 character in. This is meant to keep it ticking over until you enter another character. Agents don't care about that. The agent's not filling in a form. So it's going to remove this set timeout. This is like an efficiency refactor exercise. Now, this is like a trivial UX example, but you can imagine in a code base with a really wide surface area, many of these over time, like, it's going to drift. It's going to drift from your original intent. And this is the most frustrating kind of drift because this is the kind of stuff that you actually thought of. And then your agent comes in 2 sessions later with no context and is like, lol, hate it, sorry. You might be thinking, we've always had this problem. We don't always capture intent for things, even when there's lots and lots of humans working on it. And that's true. We capture context and intent in things like meeting notes, passing conversations over coffee, documentation, code comments, if you're lucky enough to work somewhere that keeps these things up to date. With agents, you still have all of this stuff plus the agent conversations. The issue is really compounding now because these agent conversations, again, ephemeral and just you and this robot. As well, the consumers of your code base are changing. Of course, other developers are also going to see your code. Oh my God. By the way, yesterday we heard at a meetup that apparently Bolt, has anyone used Bolt before? Okay, apparently Bolt is offering a consulting service in which they pay engineers to debug your vibe-coded app. Does that sound like the worst job in the world? Anyway, I've been meditating on that since I heard it, so you have to hear it too, sorry. Increasingly, people who don't code are going to consume your code. That might sound like sci-fi. That's not sci-fi. I literally just heard the co-founder of Intercom say that all of their designers are expected to push code to production today. Pause for jeers. I don't know, that got a boo last night, which was a bit surprising. Agents, of course. Agents are very, very smart, but they literally were born like the second you initialized your session. They don't know what happened here before. They have no idea. Also you're forgetful. You have an organic brain. It's not that good. I'm sorry. You in 3 months, you're going to have no idea what you were doing in this vibe-coded app. And maybe it's not even 3 months. Maybe it's like 2 hours. So how do we inoculate ourselves against kind of this changing environment and this problem? I think we need to start designing narrative arcs inside our code bases. I think like there's a few, how many of you have heard of spec-driven development kind of before Simon spoke tonight? Yeah. And like there's a few tools, few companies kind of converging on this right now. There's Kiro from AWS, there's SpecKit from GitHub, obviously there's Tesla that you heard about. I feel like just the existence of this convergence on this idea of specs really concedes my point that I want to make tonight, which is that natural language is a first-class citizen in your code base, or needs to be. It is a first-class citizen whether you're capturing it or not. I think one nice way that you can get started on this right now is literally just to annotate stuff. Here's an example of a heavy annotation. I'm not going to show you this whole file, but you have to take my word for it. This is a storage module for a Notes app. This annotation kind of describes basically the entire surface area of this module. Who's calling it? What effects does it have downstream? If you didn't have this annotation here and you wanted all of this context, you would need to traverse a lot of code, a lot of files and a lot of code and a lot of tokens. Tokens are cheap, but you know, it's still important to be efficient. That's one way. I want to talk about specs because I think they really do a lot of this heavy lifting for you. Here's the same thing, but as a spec. And there's a few parts to this, but I wanted to make it big enough so you could read. But here's an example. Simon went through some of these already. Can you see my mouse? Yeah. So this generate tag is saying exactly, in the same little bit of context, what code is this spec going to generate? Capabilities are enumerated as testable statements. And this is all very custom. Like, this is a spec generated with TESOL, but whatever you're using, I think it's important to have some kind of file linkage happening. With TESOL, you can be super, you can customize this as much as you want. So I could have a test per statement if I wanted to. That's not the way I chose to write this. An API, which is like just a high-level interface of this module. And then also dependencies. I feel like this is where it gets really cool and happens to illustrate my point really well, which is all of these dependencies are other specs. So you can kind of imagine like a tree, sort of like this, but specs. Importantly, these could be code files. They could be external libraries. They could be whatever. The point of this use syntax is really just to say, here's the context behind this thing I need to use, and here's where it's located. That's it. You can imagine yourself like a really nice kind of path of traversal for the agent or for the intercom designer who is trying to understand what your code does. Here's an example of how I might lay out this whole program. I think it's important to say, and I get this question a lot, like, what's the right kind of number of specs, or when do you break a spec down to depend on another spec? It's a hard question. Like, people have different tastes when it comes to software, and it really is down to taste. Obviously, concerns being separated is kind of nice, and that's what I've tried to illustrate here. But it's also like, imagine if you're looking just at sync, which only calls storage, you can kind of stop there if you only need to understand sync, if you see what I mean. So it's about designing the arc. And that leads you to something that looks more like this. If you remember my kind of like opaque circle at the beginning, it's much easier to pick out what the intent was that the author actually had for this code base. What about existing projects? So it's really nice to kind of greenfield stuff and be like, look, I'm just generating things and I know exactly what I want as soon as I start. I know that's not real life. A lot of you probably work on legacy code bases. I get it. I still think this is important. It really becomes an exercise of preventing regression from this point. But of course, you can only capture so much intent for these sort of older projects. Think about where intent is already captured. Things like tests, not unit tests, but integration tests, regression tests, end tests, like things that really describe how a user is meant, how a user or a consumer or whatever is meant to interact with this program. Decision documentation, if you're lucky enough to have that, I feel that's a little aspirational. User-facing documentation, again, if it's up to date. PRs, maybe conversations in PRs, commit logs, stuff like that. Slack conversations. I actually think I'm going to delete this bullet point because Slack makes it impossible to export stuff. So if you want to pass Slack conversations as context, good luck. Agent conversation history as well. And I'm going to give you one example of that. Oh, just kidding. I'm bored. Let's play Hangman. So here's an existing project that I have. Can we play this game, actually? I would like to play this game. Can someone shout a letter, please? Again. C. Guys. S. E. I. T. O. You guys. Okay, we have two. We can do this. A is already done. Snort? Short! Damn, okay. All right, well, nice try, team. Anyway, point being, I vibe coded this little Hangman app ages ago. I can't remember when. I vibe coded it with Gemini, and Gemini is one of those agents that loves to put your conversations in a temp file, so I had to grab it before it was deleted and put it inside of my repository. This is my entire conversation history. It might not seem like it, but there's quite a lot of like UX decisions that I made here. One of those is that I really wanted it to be keyboard first. These are clickable too, but I feel like it makes sense to use the keyboard. So what I decided to do to make this more spec-driven and to document my intent is I ran this tool. I hope that you can read this, appreciate it's not super easy. But we've got a document tool at Tessel which actually takes code and makes a spec out of it. So you don't always have to go just the other way. I passed in my singular script.js file, and then I gave it an extra prompt, and I provided this chat log, which I got from Gemini. And I just said, look through my conversation history, make sure that my decisions are captured here. And I'm going to give you two examples of how this worked out. So in one example, I passed this context of my conversation history, and in one, I don't. Here's with extra context. Here's one example of like a capability block. What I really want to point out is supports both mouse clicks and keyboard input for letter selection, visibly disables. Like this stuff is kind of more focused on how the user is interacting. Compare without context, all we know is how the code works right now. We don't really know how it's supposed to work. So all this says is handles keyboard input. Cool. Yes, it does. That, to me, I'm an artistic genius, okay? I want that intent captured in my spec. Again, a simple example, but I hope that kind of illustrates the point that I'm talking about here. I meant to change the wording on this because how many times have you heard this? I myself have heard this way too much. It's the most cliche thing I could possibly say, but it's also true, unfortunately. This is a new era of software development. I think we need to change our thinking about the code that we're working with agents to produce. Humans are tech leads now. They need to understand the code as well. So make it as easy as possible for everyone involved. Let agents understand their working environment better and help agents lead them a bit easier. Ultimately, this, I believe, is going to future-proof your code base. We're only going to see more and more agents, and that's my hope, and that's all I have for you.
Some questions if you, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll jump into a few questions. Any questions for Macy?
Oh, yeah. So the tools that you were showing, is there a cost to them?
Like a monetary cost?
Yeah, monetary cost.
Tesla is free to try, actually, at the moment. Stay tuned on that.
Okay.
Hi.
You guys done any evaluation or testing with like a spec-driven development compared to purely conversational? And kind of what were the results of like the performance testing on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We have run a lot of evals. I mean, Simon made me laugh when he was like, we're a brand new startup, but also we're 18 months old, which to me feels a little ancient. But we've spent that whole time studying specs. And we've done some evals on what kind of specs make better software. We've done some evals on how to regenerate code in a stable way using specs. One thing that we have not evaluated, which I feel is really core to our philosophy, is kind of the 1 to 2. Like, having a spec just for the sake of having a spec in your code base is kind of whatever. The point is that when you go back to maintain it and evolve it, and when someone else goes to maintain it, that they find it significantly easier because there's a spec there. And that is really, really, really tricky to eval, but is on our radar.
It's good, Mary. I was wondering, Macy, so sorry.
I don't mind.
You mentioned Kiro and SpecKit specifically. I'm sure you've done some investigation into your competitors. What would you say is Tesla's advantage or differentiator in that space, the spec-driven development space?
Well, okay. So I'm American, but I have lived in London for like a decade. You may know that in the UK, it's like not so chic to do a ton of self-promotion. So I snuck one in there, very subtly. But we're in America. I can be a little more brash about it. So the kind of load-bearing syntax in a TESOL spec, linking to other files, providing specific context around dependencies, et cetera, that is unique to us. And that's because we believe that a spec, you need all the information for the thing that it's describing in one place. If you use SpecKit or Kiro, you're not going to get any file linking. You're not going to get any special syntax. You will get a really nice chunk of context that describes something you want to make. Where is it? I don't know. How does it like link into the architecture of your code? Don't know. Good luck. That I think would be the primary differentiator at the moment. Yeah.
One thing to add on that, I think Kira in particular, which about spec, it might be the same, is if you look at the life cycle of the spec, with Kira in particular, the way that's designed is the spec is created for the change. So if you're wanting to make a delta from where you are to a new feature, the spec, the plan, everything that would be created would be for that change. And then the life cycle of the spec wouldn't continue to live. Right, what we're looking at with Tesla is having the life cycle of the spec live with the application, make a change, make a change to the speed. If the application speed continues to live with the future changes, you take the current speed and you make more changes. With others, you might throw away that spec and then create a new one based on a new plan, just for a new in the future. Awesome. One, yeah. We'll take one more question.
You showed us how with the prompt, the spec that was developed was more descriptive. It had information about what it can do. Is that always the case? You tested this on other code bases as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did in that example command is I passed in, using a context flag, I passed in a singular file. I could pass in multiple files if I want. But generally, our experience is the more context that you can have around the soft stuff, if you know what I mean, so more of the kind of conversational decision stuff, you are going to get more of that rich sort of user-focused spec detail. Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
I think next up we're going to be with David about how you can be more productive developers using AI as a programmer with Copilot.
That seems to be the theme of the night, is how to be productive with AI. I'll turn on my volume here. I'm going to talk a little bit about me. Yeah, this is me. I actually work here at Microsoft. My job is to help partners build applications on Azure. I have a lot of stuff online. Check out my TV shows. I'll give you a link to this deck so you don't have to copy anything down. So Macy was laughing about how a new era is kind of a cliche, and I refer to it as a revolution. But it's the reason I think you were laughing is because it's not really that new. I mean, AI has been around a really long time. It's just the hype has been, and the interest has been great. A lot of it came from our friends over at OpenAI who created ChatGPT. All of a sudden, it's accessible. Everybody's using this AI. Just like Steve Jobs didn't invent the smartphone, but one day he stood up on stage and said, "One more thing, check this out," and everybody got crazy over it. Netscape didn't invent the internet. It had been around for decades. But once those disks started showing up in the computer store, people had it at home. Something as similar is happening with AI. And when I talk about AI, I know we've used these terms a lot today, but artificial intelligence, it's a new way of us as developers thinking. It's, trying to get the computer not to execute code one after another, but giving it patterns and having it learn from those patterns so that it can generate similar content with similar patterns, or can understand those patterns. And one example of that is with generative AI. That's where a lot of the hype is right now. That's what ChatGPT does. Generative AI is the ability to generate either words, either text in a natural language like English, or music, or videos, or pictures, or code, which is what I'm going to talk about today. And it uses large language models, and those language models are getting better and better all the time. The hype has caused lots of startups to invest heavily in building these large language models. We're seeing great advances in that. That's the really revolutionary part of it, even though technically it's evolutionary. It's been around a long time. It's just accelerating a lot right now. All right, so who's a developer, a software developer for a living, writes code? Half the room or so. This is what my talk is about for those folks that are here, is how can we use AI to help our developers? And here's some of the ways that AI can help. We can ask it questions about code that we've inherited. We can generate code. We can refactor code. We can have it explain code, generate unit tests or automated tests for our code, just create documentation. All of these things are available through the tools of generative AI and large language models. What does this do? Just makes our development that much faster. I meant to put on my timer here, make sure I don't go over. It makes our developers much more productive, so we can get done faster. But more than that, I think it improves developer satisfaction. So if there's anybody here that wants a good case for getting generative AI tools into their development environment, developers who are using generative AI tools, they tend to let the AI focus on building this boilerplate code, and they can focus on the more creative things, the things that are more fun for developers. They're conserving mental energy by by not having to rewrite a lot of code or type out a bunch of boilerplate code, not having to go through the whole, Google Stack Overflow copy paste routine that so many developers are doing right now. It's been a lot of the time on. They can actually just get the code, get 80% of the code in there, and then start refining it and doing something productive with it. And that's a lot more satisfying, at least for me as a developer. It's not perfect. There are limitations to it. It is based on existing code. The tools, I'm going to show you one from Microsoft called GitHub Copilot, and it is based largely on public GitHub repositories. And if you looked at public GitHub repositories, there's a lot of excellent code out there, a lot of bad code out there. And so it may base some of it on incorrect code and give you some information. You as a developer, if you let this thing generate your code for you, you still have a responsibility to vet that code, to make sure that what it's creating is, one, correct, and two, appropriate for what you want. So if you're worried about AI taking your job and you're a software developer, in the short term, that's not going to happen. First of all, it's just not good enough. There aren't tools out there that are perfect. They're going to do everything right every time. And second, you still have a job. You need to verify it. You need to be asked the questions correctly. The tools we saw earlier, what prompt was entered made a big difference in what kind of code was created. So your job is evolving. It's not going away. All right, I'm going to show my demos, but before I do want to give a shameless plug because we're here in America, right? And if you want to learn more about this, come Tuesday night, right here, the Chicago Cloud Computing User Group. The talk on Tuesday is about GitHub Copilot. We're going to go in a lot more detail than I'm going to go right here. And I'll flash this up here just if anybody wants the slide deck. I'll leave that up there for about 15 seconds. And you can get pictures of those robots in there before I go to my demo. Demo, let's do it. And if I do this and say, let's try to duplicate. I can close that. What I have here, this is a code. As a developer, a lot of times what you'll do is you'll inherit someone else's code base and you want to explain it. And what I'm using is a tool called GitHub Copilot. This is Visual Studio Code. It's running in a virtual environment. And Visual Studio Code is kind of nice because it's very lightweight. It's cross-platform, it's free, it's lightweight, but it also supports extensions, which is why it's so lightweight. You only install the extensions that you need. And there is an extension for GitHub Copilot that is already installed in here. And once I have that, then I have the capability of GitHub Copilot. Copilot itself, I think there's a free version of it, but generally if you're using it to make money off of it, I think it's like 20 bucks a month. But anyway, from in here, I've got this extension, so everything's set up for me to start using it. And in this code base, which I inherited from somebody else, I don't really know anything about it. I can ask questions. I'll use this cheat sheet here to say something like, down here in the chat window, please briefly explain the structure of this project and what should I do to run it. And this is a pretty simple project, but I've many times had things with projects with thousands of lines of code in it. I spend days just kind of spelunking through it, trying to figure out what it does. This gives me an example of what it does overall. Looks at the 25 references. There's probably 25 files in here. It tells me what each one of those files does. It tells me how to install it. This is Python, and it requires this pip install thing right here. I'm not an expert on Python, so I did know that there's a requirements file that has the dependencies, but I couldn't remember the syntax of it. That's really nice. Here's one of those dependencies is uvicorn. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but I can execute that. Just click there, right there, and execute it in the command window, and it'll actually run this application in a browser. It's a Python application running in a browser, and it has basically it says you can sign a student up for an activity. That's the idea. Sign somebody up for an activity, click on sign up, and it signs them up. And that's very cool. It's just a nice way to run through this right here to here. Let me kill that right now. Control C. Nice way to get started. That probably would have taken me a lot longer if I had to figure out on my own. One, not knowing the code base. Two, not being a Python expert. I'd have to go and search exactly what I need to do to run this application. The other thing I can do here is maybe I want to create a new branch in GitHub, and I'm not that familiar with the syntax of Git. GitHub, how do I create and publish a new GitHub or a new Git branch called this, Accelerate with Copilot? There's the syntax for doing it. Again, I can go out and Google it with Bing, or I can just let Copilot tell me, oh, I got to do a checkout here. -B is the switch, and that will create a branch. And you see right down here in the corner, it tells me, yep, I'm on a new branch right here. And if I want to push it up to the repository, I could do that right here with the git push command. Folks in here are probably familiar enough with Git, but that's an example of something that I could use to learn how to do things. Here's one. If I wanted to do, let's run this command one more time, and I'll show you there's a potential bug in here that right there that I don't like, and I want to fix the bug. So the bug is that these students are only supposed to be able to register for one activity. The activity lasts all day, it's on a single day, and here's David, he's signing up for the chess club, but here he is signing up for another activity. No, that shouldn't be allowed, and yet it is allowed. I want to fix that bug. I can ask Copilot to fix the bug for me. And I have to go into, there are multiple modes. There's ask mode and edit mode and agent mode. Let's go into edit mode here. This allows, I'm giving GitHub Copilot permission to modify some of the code that I want. If I'm in ask mode, all it will do is answer questions. But in here, I'll say, it says, okay, the bug allows students to register twice for an activity from the sign up for activity function. Currently, there is no check to see if the student email is already in use. So right here, it's telling me where the problem is. It's here in this sign up for activity function in the app.py. So if I click on it, it takes me right to the file, and the sign up for activity is here, and it's telling me right there that I should add a check. To fix this, should add a validation step to prevent duplicate registration. So how about, one way to interact with this is just put a comment in and say, check if the student is already signed up for an activity, something like that. And just by putting that comment in there, you'll see that it'll generate, see it's kind of grayed out there. I press tab to accept it, and it's generating some code to do this. So if it loops through all the activities, and if that email is found in the participants field, then it'll raise an exception. It won't go any further. So kill this and start it again, then hopefully that should be enough to fix the bug. Open in browser. Too many browsers open here. And let's try it. Let's see if it fixed it. David signed up for the chess club. Sign up. That's good. That's okay. Let's sign up for a chess club. I think it hit it twice. Anyway, that's what it's supposed to do. Just sign up again. David signed up. He's already signed up twice. So it is checking it. So it did fix this bug, and I can interact with it that way. This is a huge time saver for some of the code. Again, it might not be perfect. It may be that it'll get it close, but if it's 80% of the way there, that's 80% of the work that you don't have to do. I'll show you another example here. Close some of these browsers here. Oh, close and close and close. Back to here. Build that there. And I have, this is actually using an in-memory database. Right here, the list of activities is here. I only had 3 activities. If you noticed that, the drop-down just had chess club, programming class, and gym class. So I want to add more activities. And they all have a, so what I can do is, there's a shortcut here. Right there. If I hit Control-I, when I'm on that line of code, now I've got some context. Control-I. Here, come on. Control-I. There we go. Okay. Then now I can enter some commands in here. Looks like I've put a space there by mistake. Fix that. Control-Z. There we go. And now Control-I. All right. And now I can give it commands or ask questions, and it's relative to this line of code right here. There's some context to that. Add 2 more sports-related activities, 2 more artistic activities, and 2 more intellectual activities. And it doesn't have to go searching through where that code is. I'm right here on this line of code that generates the activities. And so it's going to generate some code. And here, this green parts here are new code that it's going to add, a bunch of new activities to this array. And I can either accept it or reject it just by close, or I can regenerate, because this is a non-deterministic engine. It may, if I regenerate it, it'll create different code that does the same thing, responds to the prompt in the same way. I'll accept it. I kind of like that. And let's run it again. Just verify, trust but verify. You know, bring that up here, open it in the browser, and let's see if there are now a bunch more activities. Look at that. All those things were added automatically. Really cool stuff. And I have a little time left, so I'll show you one more really cool thing. This is, you can do this context here. If I just do the highlight a line of code, it knows that context. If I have a file open, it understands that context. When I say it understands that context, that means that if I ask it a question, it'll assume I'm talking about the file that's in context or the line of code that's in context. If I want to have multiple files in context, I can actually drag them into this window. So if I wanted to have like these 3 files, drag them into my chat window. Now it knows questions that I ask are relative to those 3 files. So I can do things like that. But there's only so much that GitHub Copilot can do. All it really knows about is this large language model and this repository, this project here that it's working on. But you can extend it. There are a few ways to extend it. I think Simon mentioned MCP servers, and there are MCP servers that are out there that you can use that will extend the functionality of this. And one of them is called githubcopilot.com/MCP. And I just by adding this little file here to say, how do I get to it? So I use through HTTP. There's the endpoint of it right now. Visual Studio Code is smart enough to know that recognize this file is an MCP file, and it has this little button right here to say start. And by clicking on start, actually, let me cancel it first. Before I click on start, I'll, oh, well, I guess too late now. Let's restart it. Allow it. I'll start it up. It did ask me for permission because it's using my GitHub Copilot account. All right, I gave it permission. And you see now it's running. That's just a functionality of Visual Studio Code and the GitHub Copilot extension. But because it's running here, now I have access to not only the stuff that GitHub Copilot does natively, but also, where's my tools on here? Make that a little bigger. Oh, why don't I see tools? Let me close all these. Get rid of all this context. Close that. And should see them here. Tools. Let me see. That's not what I want. I don't close this and this. And get here. It is still running. And I would expect to see that my little button disappeared here. So, well, okay, so I do have access to other tools here, but I can ask questions like, are there other, or how about this? Are there other GitHub repositories that allow users to, or allow students to sign up for activities? There's got to be, right? But what this extension does is it searches all of the public repositories in GitHub and returns answers about that. And so there are some things, hackathon research student projects. This is not what I was expecting to see. Give me 1 second here. Let me see if I can find the actual prompt. The prompt I want is here. And search for any other repositories. That's really the same thing I did there. Oops. Here we go. So this is right here, there are some. This Attendize, for example, is an open source project that does something really similar. And when I have that, now maybe I want to steal some ideas from that. And I can ask it questions like, look at the code. How about this one? Event management system. Look at the code for the third option and give me a detailed description of the features of that and tell me what it can do. And those are the kinds of things it can do. And I can do something like, so now it's listing a bunch of the features of that, and I'll say, hey, let's create issues for these in my repository. So all the features that it has, I want to create an issue for basically a list of to-do items, put them in my GitHub repository, and allow it to do that. So this is kind of the nice feature that we have in here that extends it using MCP servers. All right, that's it. That's what I got.
Anyone got any questions for David? Any time at the end for questions as well. Any questions? Who's using Copilot today? Good number of people. Copilot for me was, I think, like my first journey into using AI with my software development. I think other than copy pasting, was probably early stage, but
Google, Stack Overflow,
yeah,
copy and paste. That's how it starts. This shortens that loop.
Yeah. Copilot for me was, I think, for most people, the first step in the journey of really introducing AI dev tools into the natural workloads.
If I'm understanding, this is a very general purpose AI programming tool, and Tessel provides a more specific area.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say
is that fair?
Yeah, I would say they're very different. Like Copilot is much more of a code centric. Like you're in the code and you're using Copilot for that. You can also use, if you wanted Copilot to say, oh, I'm going to do this with Tessel. You can use Tessel with Copilot.
Interesting.
And then Copilot can say, oh, I want to build this spec. Copilot then drives Tessel to build the spec. Go from there. So you can maybe do that together.
Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, we'll do some questions at the end as well, and there'll be time for networking. But now we have the wonderful Mary.
Oh, thank you.
You have one of these?
No.
You're also Java champion.
Yeah, thank you.
We knew each other years ago from the Java space.
Yeah.
I've been involved in Java for about, I don't know, 70 to 80 years maybe, I think.
Yeah.
So we first met through that.
Yeah, through the Java. Yeah, the Java users. Yeah.
But yeah, are you all set and ready?
Yeah, yeah. Let me plug in the HDMI. Yeah. Okay. Right here. Oh, this is the HDMI. Okay. Let me slide through.
3, 2, 1.
Oh. No. Oh, maybe it's it. Oh, okay. Okay. I got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Simon. Okay, first of all, let me thank again to Simon. Yeah. Yeah. What is it going on?
The mic on?
Is it on? Can you hear okay? No? Oh, the green light. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Hello. Can you hear okay now? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So first of all, let me thank again. I don't think when I came out and introduced AI Collective, I forgot to thank again to Tessel, to Simon and Sam, and also Macy too. So really happy, because you crossed the Atlantic and coming over here. So thank you very much. Okay, so my topic for today, right? It's going to be just 15, 20 minutes. So I won't have time to talk everything about event-driven, multi-agent, all of these things. But because the theme of today is about AI native development, and also I have to admit too, it's new for me. AI native development only came out in 2025, I believe. So very new, but as I was reading through the definition of it, and that's what I'm going to talk about too, I realized that there's a lot of kind of really good synergy, so to speak, between if you're doing event-driven type of development and applying it for multi-agentic type of situation, it's really kind of relevant. So I'm just going to be having this talk as more of a quick introduction and about these event-driven technology, as well as how we can kind of think of the AI native development approach, right? Using spec-driven, context-aware type of approach to help too with this work. So, okay, so that's enough of me. So this is just very quick agenda, who's Mary, and then talk about software development, a bit of history too. How does it lead us to here? Event-driven world, the AI, distributed computing, agentic AI, blah, 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 all these things. So that's what I'm going to talk about in 15 minutes. So give me some time. But who's Mary? So I won't kind of take any more time to describe myself. And thank you again, as Simon already introduced. So, but as such too, I'm also leading AI Collective. So I want to invite you to join too if you haven't already. Okay, so I just want to, well, actually, let me quickly ask too, how many of you are already doing event-driven type of development work? I'm just curious too. Like say working with Apache Kafka, for example, some kind of event-driven work? Yeah, so just a few. Okay, thank you. Yeah, because then it gives me an idea. Maybe I'll go just explain a little bit why, right? And it's also, it's a bit of a, already by itself without AI, it's already a bit of a paradigm shift too. So I thought it might be, kind of, I need to also take some time to explain. So I'm just kind of talk about software development from traditional waterfall to agile, and then to now like AI native. I think I just kind of broadly categorize the evolution of software development. So as such, right, AI native development is really about this art, so to speak, like this approach to doing development. So like from 1950 to like early 2020s, I actually found this really nice picture or kind of a description, like pictorial, in picture, kind of describe it too. As you can see, right, late 1990s too. Actually, I said 50, but it's actually 1990. Okay, so as we can see, right, there were more usability, and then later too, getting into, the waterfall method, all of these things. And then eventually too, we found out that it isn't fast enough doing waterfall. So then we get into agile development. And that's what I think a lot of you, if you're in development, that's what we're using. And it's supposed to be faster. But as such, things are kind of moving like really faster and faster. As you can see too, like with all the color coding too, as you can see in here, some fundamentals we go through, and then integrating with software engineering and beyond development, beyond software, and also getting into emerging technologies too. So let me go to the next one. So as we can see too, there's also like this changing role of business too, right? The supporting role when we first started doing things, and then getting into the business to more collaboration, and then technology-driven type of differentiation. And then now actually technology really is the business. And now AI, how do we get it into business is what our challenge is every day. But okay, so let's kind of get back to like, those are kind of abstract things, and how does business relate to us? And let's get back down to earth, talking about LLMs. As such, I'm going to talk about the use of agents in AI. So as such, it's because really LLM is very limited too, right? It doesn't have memory on its own, is probabilistic. Non-deterministic, that algorithms is opaque. You can't add any attribution to its answers. Not only that, it's very expensive, very outrageous, right? The cost. And not only that, if you think about it, LLM is just a one-shot deal. It does its job really well if you exactly tell it what to do. But beyond that, if you want more like a complex workflow, what about if you want to tell it to book your flight reservation, right? I'm flying, actually last week I was drastically delayed from Amsterdam all the way back to Chicago. There was a big delay in Europe, and it took me 60 hours to get back. And so I was kind of thinking that might be a good use case, to kind of design a system that can immediately recognize if your flights get delayed. It can automatically actually book you to the next flight, book you all the hotel. And even if you're not booked on the same carrier, it needs to know too. All these things, I think, are kind of potential for using AI to do your work. So if you kind of do that kind of system, there's just no way the current LLM can do it. It's just dumb. You need to tell it exactly. But why do we need LLM if we have to design every step of the way, right? So we need agents too, as such, to design these little steps for us. We have to think of what the steps are first, design all of these agents, and then have them kind of somehow orchestrate themselves, all of these things. So as such, it can't handle scalability, complex tasks, no memory. So that's why we get into agentic stuff. So agentic architecture, quickly kind of talk about it, is basically we want systems to be able to execute autonomously and also integrate with tools as well. and also have very seamless scalability. And also, not only that, too, has to be very resilient, too, and being able to even recover if there are problems, too. All these things are really agentic in nature. It needs to be adaptable. Some of the key concepts, I won't kind of get into all the details, but as such, there are different architectural kind of patterns too that's associated with it. But I probably will skip that for now. But essentially, too, we want agents to be able to handle complex task execution. If you are booking flight tickets, it needs to know, what it is. What are the options out there? It needs to go to all of the carriers, look at all the routes, what are your time, look at the customer's calendar to say, I want to go from Chicago to Amsterdam, how many different routes, all of these things, and present all the case, the best route, have the user pick something they want, and then have them say, pick what you want, and I need to charge you now. So now you need to connect to the payment system. So all that too, they are individually being carried out by different agents that interact with all of these subsystems. So as you can see, it's quite complicated. So now then, I kind of studied this AI native development. I thought, oh, what a good idea. And of course, right now, I think AI native development is still in its early stage. We talk about spec-driven, and that's Simon and Macy already kind of demonstrate. And I can see too, it's really good step towards it. You're trying to use a spec to describe what is needed being done. So putting AI as the first-class citizen, so to speak, is built into it, not something that you just pick it out to use. It's already baked in. So what a good concept, right? And not only that too, AI native development needs to also be very aware of the context as well. So that's also kind of makes use of your LLM, able to kind of know what kind of things will be needed, all of these things that are kind of essentially saving us time to think of all of these steps. So. And the next thing too is actually, that's what I'm particularly interested in AI native development, is that it's really is using a lot of agents. Not only that, there are multiple agents and also the orchestration aspect. So that kind of jives very well into this event-driven, multi-agentic type of scenario. And of course too, I think as such, the current kind of examples are not many out there, but I think there are lots of potential too. In this aspects of applying this approach to do complex system, especially on enterprise level, that helps it to use this multiple agents kind of approach too. Okay, so let me then take a bit back step right into this event-driven world, and AI kept talking about it, but just wanted to kind of maybe quickly explain, because not everybody maybe are developers here, but basically what is event-driven is basically too at the heart of AI. We're really relying on data. Without data, actually nothing would happen in the AI world. And as such, data is the dynamic property. It's very flexible, very fluid as well. And there are flow of data in many directions too. So that's kind of the thing that we're working with. So now working with data and working with the tools, kind of if you look at it, right, on the architectural level, we can design systems that are event-driven in nature too. So everything too, you don't actually already need to explicitly code it. The way you code it is basically saying that if certain events happen, then there should be trigger certain action to it. That's kind of the thing. And so now you need to handle data in also different states too. Data can be at rest, which means they are in databases or file systems or at some kind of storage. And you need to also handle it when they are in transit. That means if you're having data, you want to send from point A to point B, some messaging too that goes from in a queue, you kind of being picked up and go to another node, things like that. And then also too, data in use. So when you need to operate on your data as well, that deals with data manipulation and transformation too. So all of the techniques that you can see there, event streaming or messaging or this event sourcing and CQRS, I won't kind of get into all the details. These are specific techniques that we can actually apply to kind of operating on all of the data and also keeping track of it, doing observability as well. So as you can see, right, all of these things in here, and I'm just citing examples of tooling you can use, such as Apache Kafka, Apache Pulsar or Red Panda or Solus. All of these are like event kind of store too. Now, again, I won't kind of get into all the detail, but just want to kind of mention about it now. And of course, too, there are also Gen AI. If you kind of look into it, to generative AI type of, there are lots of cases in which there are streaming usages as well. Streaming, this is, we're basically expressing the fact that data will be traveling to between different actions. You're doing prompts, you're sending the data through command lines, through browser, to actually your prompts, you're prompting, you're asking LLM to do some work. And let's say we're using some RAG operations in between, that will also be interacting with different data sources from the network, from the sockets, from message queues, for example. And then you also then will have to massage your input and then send the request eventually to LLMs. And then it's like ultimately too, you're getting results back from the LLM. So all these could be streamed back. You don't need to time it exactly, right? When it comes, you operate on it. That kind of is kind of a streaming usage too. Okay, so just wanted to point out these benefits of the event-driven approach. Is basically, as you can see, data is very dynamic. So the flow patterns also kind of, you don't do it. It's basically, you don't do it, have to explicitly do it. But basically, when things happen, data will flow. When it comes, you act on it accordingly. So it enables very asynchronous style of communication through these event streams. So as a result too, because the use of PubSub type of broker system for messaging on that level, then it actually helps with scalability as well and flexibility too in this approach. And also too, now we talk about, able to do AI native development is having your system actually interact with different language models as well. So this actually works very well in an event-driven type of approach too. But also to be aware too, there are plenty of challenges about if you need to do debugging, doing observability, track, how does, when data comes, you need to have some way of tracking it. If something goes wrong, which tends to be the case, you want to be able to figure out what's going wrong and track it and trace it, all of these things. So just be aware of it too, using event-driven kind of approaches. So, okay, so I think I may not want to get into all of these details about distributed computing, but I do see a lot of kind of very close kind of what you call it, like CAP theorem, for example. If some of you have worked with that, that's basically guaranteeing that data is consistent and also it's always responsive. You get data back when you need it, and also too, anytime you're dealing with distributed computing, you're also relying on network connection too. So all these, basically CAP theorem is saying that these three fundamental aspects, essentially only two are guaranteed at any time. So that's the thing. So that's the kind of challenges we need to deal with for data in a distributed kind of setting. Same thing applied to agentic kind of AI scenario too. So. Okay, so I think I won't get into all the details because it's just get into too much of these kind of discussion that may not be as relevant in this case, but because I have to admit, a bit kind of running out of time, I was kind of telling Simon I was dealing with the people issue today. So anyway, but all of these two are just getting into all of the details. But again, I just wanted to really quickly kind of touch on event streaming, on multi-agent, as well as how does it make sense, right, for AI native development. But I kind of look at it like because of the nature of event-driven and AI native development is actually they can work very well together because it can manage a lot of the complex steps that are needed in terms of if you're managing multi-agents, kind of connection, all of these things. So I think that has to be weighted to be seen what can be done through like a spec-driven type of way of doing things. But okay, so as such, as we all know, we're working with AI systems. We need to make sure things are consistent, the data is consistent, all of these things. We need to optimize for latency and resource usage, all of these things as well. Be aware of hallucinations, and AI security is always at the kind of core kind of thing too when we're dealing with especially like enterprise level data as well. So that's it. And if you're interested, this slide deck includes more information than what I just talked about. If you're interested in it, this is the bit.ly link and also the QR code. And of course, I'm always here if you want to talk about these things. I love to kind of talk more about it. If you're interested in the true like data kind of deep down inside things. So And all these are just different things, and also how you can get a hold of me. But I don't need to tell you, you know where to look for me. I live near here. So thank you very much, and I hope that's helpful. And please feel free to stay connected. So thank you. Thank you, Simon.
Awesome, thank you very much, Mary.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, very briefly, let's take some questions from Mary
Sure.
as well.
Sure.
And while we're doing that,
You need to get that. Okay. Yeah.
Run this.
Thank you. So, hands up for questions from Mary, please.
How do you go about multi-agent orchestration? Are there any tools that you typically use to orchestrate that?
To orchestrate, I think that's actually a very, very good question. I think I actually have yet to see, right, anybody doing like true multi-agents, especially also event-driven as well, to actually see a real case. But that's actually very, very good question. You can potentially design another event system to actually be monitoring things, but that's when I feel that like a spec-driven type of approach might be good too, because you have certain rules that you are laying out, and then having a spec being able to guide it, and then having another like an orchestrator is there to be coordinating with all your components that are necessary. So some of the boilerplate things can be simplified using a spec-driven type of approach. It's what I'm thinking. There isn't any actual code to show that yet, but I think that might be something we can work on as well. So yeah. But that's a very good question. Thank you. Oh, sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah, there are two people. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your talk. Really interesting.
Thank you.
You mentioned a lot of RAG.
Yeah.
Context windows are expanding pretty quickly. Google Gemini has 1 million context windows. Do you still see a future for RAG?
I'm not that. I don't have the answer for you right now. But those are a good question. I'll do some research and look up for you. Yeah. Let's connect, and then we'll figure it out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. We'll keep going with the questions. By the way, I have put the QR code back up on the screen. If you haven't signed up for Tesla and for the Watcher, we'll be doing the raffle for that in 5 to 10 minutes. So feel free, last chance to do that.
Hi, I just want to say, it's a bit loud.
Anthony,
Hi,
right? Hi.
so thank you, Mary, for having the great presentation.
Thank you.
This might be a bit of a simple question, but when it comes to your presentation about event-driven and all that in multiple agents, what are examples of, say, certain use cases or experiences in the industry where you think those sectors desperately need, or like something similar in terms of implementation or usage in that field?
Oh, okay. You mean like specific kind of use cases that would be like prime candidate, right? So using situation. Sure. I think there would be lots of scenarios that you can think of. Perhaps more like a fraud detection system, maybe even, because those things you need the more of an instant kind of response to when you figure out there are some issues, security type of related issues, you want to have immediate kind of action to do it, right? So then you're supposed to be using something like an event-driven system that's also supporting real-time type of reaction. So some data comes in and doesn't look right, you have certain rules, and you can act on it immediately. So I believe that something like in security kind of area would be kind of a good candidate to be using this type of system. So yeah, this kind of approach. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking. Yes.
You mentioned that you just mentioned that there are rules that kind of deterministically guide based on events what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But then LLMs are stochastic models. So
that's right.
Is it the orchestration that makes it deterministic? Where does that those steps come from?
Sure, that's actually very, very good question. I think maybe perhaps more like the orchestration part will be a bit more, I suppose more like a deterministic in that sense, right? That requires, there are certain steps that needs to happen, but whatever is happening inside, maybe the actual, some context within it might be kind of fluctuate within some range, maybe like less of a deterministic. But in terms of the steps that needs to happen, I think those should be like more deterministic, right? There are certain, you know that when you need to achieve something, there are certain step A, B, C, D needs to happen. Whatever happened inside could kind of varies a little bit, I think. I believe that's what it is. Yeah. Good question.
The questions, so feel free now. Let's open it up. We have Mary, we have David, we have Macy.
Yeah.
If any questions in driven, digital, Copilot, AI agents, or systems, questions around anything that we're talking about. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to do the draw in just a second.
Just have a request. Before you leave here tonight, just pick up the heavy things, the cups, and pick up the trash around you. Not, you don't have to wipe things down, but just make it a little bit easier on the staff instead of clean up here. They work very hard. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just to wrap up, first of all, a massive thank you to Microsoft for the space, and also to our speakers, including David, Mary, and Macy. A big thank you to the AI Collective. Yeah, I can't emphasize enough how great a community that is. Is there anyone in this room now who isn't a member of the AI Collective? Not willing to put their hand. You absolutely have to. Make sure you join AI Collective in Austin. They do monthly.
We do monthly meetups in different places. Yeah, we may actually also have like Tech Walk I talk about. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, our activities varies too. We can have demo nights, and that's something we're planning. Like if you're founders, you want to pitch your work, and we're going to have some demo nights, so we have investors looking at your pitches as well. So those are just example, and maybe even a dinner, some kind of things that our other members are thinking of too. So not just tech events, but there are all kinds. So thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. So make sure you join up. Of course, so big thank you to Tessa as well. One last thing before we do the draw is of course AI Native DevCon, which is happening in November. So again, feel free to scan that QR code. That'll give you 50% off the ticket price, which is down to, was it 180 without that? So 180 without that, and this will take you to $90. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
$90 for a 2-day conference.
Oh, nice.
That is cheap.
Yeah.
That is brutally cheap.
Wow.
And you'll be in the draw for one of 4 tickets, flight tickets, right? To get you from Chicago all the way, all the millions of miles away to New York.
That's cool.
Actually, Mary, when you said you were stuck for 60 hours from Europe to the US,
from Europe.
I genuinely thought you said 60 hours. So I built everything I needed to with this new AI-powered app to fix this for me. No, it wasn't.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
It's called the conference, but the code will be valid until the event. So if you decide, I'm not too sure if I want to go right now, if you put in Cecil Chicago between now and then, you'll always get 50% off. But on Friday, I will be drawing the tickets for the flight. So if you haven't registered with that code by Friday, I can't give you flights for free. But I can always give you 50%.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. See who's going to win the creepiest AI device ever built.
Yep.
Watching you doing everything in the life, judging you, just constantly sat there judging you.
What did you say? Let me know if the dog jumps on the bed.
So it uses
Turn
local AI
on the air
models.
conditioning if I'm wearing shorts.
It uses local AI models as well as cloud models if you wish, and you can encode it so that if it sees certain things, it uses video and image recognition. If certain things happen, it can use models to make decisions. If the dog jumps on the sofa, then you know, dial 911. This is an emergency. This is an expensive sofa, etc. So we have a bunch of people. Let's spin that wheel, Sammy. Drum roll.
The winner is.
Winner is. Oh. Oh, come on up.
Could you give them all that?
Yeah, there's a couple more. Congratulations. We have a few more things. Do you want to do a few more raffles?
Yeah, let's do a few more raffles. Has anyone played with these fidget spinners? They are the weightiest, nicest spinners I've ever had in my life. We're going to remove this person.
And you've had some fidget spinners, right?
Yes. Okay. I'll be closer to this mic. Yeah. Let me talk closer to this microphone. Next person to win a fidget spinner is.
This is a lot of work for a fidget spinner.
Getting the time there, so you hit it right now. Hey!
Yeah, I'm not going to throw it because I will. I'm trying to turn it up, but it's not very good. Perfect. Next human. Now, would you prefer a fidget spinner or a box with magnets that makes cool things?
And it's that was close. Manish.
Are you still here? Woo!
Do another one straight.
Manish, would you like one of these or one of these? There we go.
Okay, we have 3 left.
Next winner is. You were here. There you are.
Hey.
Amazing. What do you want? Magnets or fidget spinners?
Yeah, just sit on one.
That one. Perfect. No worries.
2 more.
Got 2 more. There are fun noises happening from here. You just can't hear them.
Yeah, you?
Yeah, I'll come to you, Tanya. Good old man. Oh, so let's try.
Final one. This is the. Oh no, already. I'll just say that.
Just click.
The final winner of the night is Monica.
So, yeah?
Hey, there we go. Awesome. Well, that's everything we have for the evening. So, do we have food left or drinks?
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. So, feel free if you have to go, have to go. If not, well, let's have networking over there. So, chat to everyone. Let's talk about Collective in Austin. Let's talk about Copilot and Tesla and everything else that we talked about today. So, thanks everyone for coming, and let's continue the conversation. Thank you all. And as David said, yeah, please don't leave rubbish or things lying around. If you can just take it to the bins on your way out, that helps a lot. Thank you very much.